It's almost as if we didn't read an aspirational quote or read a self-help book or get involved in personal development or watch one of the tens of thousands of podcasts which are about personal development. You know, Diary of a CEO is one that comes up quite a lot. You know, how you can live longer, how you can be better, how you can think quicker. It doesn't matter. The whole culture now is about these kind of things, and really it's just coping strategies. None of them work, of course. None of them can work. They might get you through 15 minutes or something, but they are not the great words of wisdom they purport to be. So without these positive affirmations coming through on our feeds all the time and sitting on mugs, you know, keep calm and carry on, whatever it is, we deflate like a balloon constantly. And then there's a post-it that we've written on the wall, maybe above the kettle, that says something like, you know, you can do it, you're stronger than you think, whatever. There are thousands of these. Deflating, pumping up, deflating, pumping up. This is the way it goes. So what triggered me to talk to you about this today? Well, one of them came across my one of my social media accounts, I think, and it was a post from somebody called Hannah Fry. I don't know who Hannah Fry is. I have looked her up, and she's a mathematician, and you know, she does documentaries, I think, for the BBC, and she's a presenter, and you know, she's a kind of celebrity. But I think she started off as a mathematician. Now, what happens with these kind of popular scientists is that they take their subject, whatever it is, psychology or philosophy, or in this case mathematics, and then of course they have to kind of use that in order to try and communicate with people some form of coping strategy that is based on their discipline. But again, it's all coping strategies. So she said that there'd been some evidence, I don't know whether it was mathematical or certainly statistical, shall we say, that there were 5 words that would induce happiness in you. And I thought, oh, here we go. And it went on for about 5 minutes. I mean, before she came to the 5 words, and I had to hang on for the 5 words, you know. I don't know why. Of course, those 5 words are not going to make any difference. It's going to be banal, but you know, if somebody says at the beginning of the, you know, of the video that you kind of are interested, you're curious, aren't you? Curious. It's almost as if you're hoping that she might be an alchemist and that she will come up with those great 5 words that will change everything. It reminds me of Matt Johnson, doesn't it? Remember his song, "This is the day your life will surely change"? Every morning you say that to yourself, don't you? This is the day my life will surely change. How many days have you said that? He's saying years and years and years people say this to themselves when they get out of bed. They open the curtains. Could this be the day that my life will surely change? And of course it doesn't change. And if it does change, it's normally not good news. Anyway, I hang on for 5 minutes waiting for this revelation from Hannah Fry, whoever she is, mathematician. It drags on and on, the build-up. You know how these things have to be dragged on now. Anyway, she got to the 5 words. And I'm thinking all this time, so this is going to be a way of inducing happiness. And so it's like one of those thousands of books and memes and little Facebook posts you get on how to be happy. How to be happy. It makes me mad. It makes me miserable, actually. Because, I mean, happiness is just an invented concept. I mean, it's only been around for 200 years, happiness. Before that, it didn't exist. It wasn't, and it doesn't exist for any animal, apart from humans who have conceptualized the idea of happiness. I mean, what has happiness got to do with being born and being alive and dying? I mean, absolutely nothing. In fact, if anything, happiness is a dangerous mode to be in. There's something wrong with you if you're happy. So anyway, she comes to the end at last. The 5 words are, you're waiting for them? Do you think they're going to change your life? Well, I mean, she's the scientist, she's the statistician, and apparently, you know, there's been real research into these 5 words. What are the magic 5 words that are going to induce happiness and lift your mood very considerably? Are you ready? You might have seen it. All right, the 5 words are this. These are the great days. These are the great days. These are the great days. You say that to yourself. These are the great days. These are the great days. And it will make you happy. Well, maybe it will, maybe it won't. That's not the point. The point is that who wants to be... Why is happiness an aspiration anyway? That's the first thing. What does it even mean? Why are we so obsessed with it? That's the first point. And secondly, I mean, linguistically, if we look at the 5 words, these are the great days. Well, it's obviously a lie. It's not true. It's a deception. It's a self-deception. It's a kind of placebo sentence, isn't it? It's a placebo. These are not the great days. In what way are these the great days? Well, don't look around you if you think these are the great days, and certainly don't read the newspaper if you think these are the great days. And I'm afraid that your body is decaying day by day. So, you know, it's an imaginary mode of being which is prompted by a suggestion. These are the great days. Well, will it work? I don't know. Maybe it could put a spring in your step. I don't know how many meters. Maybe how many meters would that put a spring in your step if you were, you know, it was a normal day, you looked out the curtains, you sang the song, Matt Johnson, and you sang the little song, "This is the day my life will surely change." You get out on the street and then, you know, it's the same old, bit of a grey cloud. And you say to yourself, these are the great days. These are the great days. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it could even stretch to 150 meters or something. Maybe 150 meters of walking. But I think at the end of that length of, we would probably find that we'd kind of work out that it wasn't really, that we'd made it up as we were going along. It's a coping strategy. But why do we have to, what are we coping with? You know, is life that hard? How come we've had an evolutionary process for a few million years, in our case, you know, stretching back hundreds of thousands of years, and in this form for a couple of 100,000 years. Surely it shouldn't be that hard, should it? It shouldn't be so hard that this evolved species that's been on this planet that's 14 billion years old needs to be pumped up with a little Facebook post, a little positive affirmation every day. Okay, I want you to think about that. Why is that happening? Well, I want to think about that. You can make a comment about it if you want. What a strange world we live in where we need to do that. I think there are 2 types, aren't there, of these positive affirmations. People like Hannah Fry, who devote their academic skills to trying to pump us up, because that's what it's all about. It's all just coping strategy. Almost everything. Culture, nearly all of culture is a coping strategy. It's either a coping strategy because you're engaging with it, because you're distracting yourself, okay? You're burying your head in a pillow and you're absorbing culture, staring at it. Yeah, you don't want any silence creeping in. But you know, it's a coping strategy for the people who produce that culture. You know, most of the people who are making your TV programs and your films are working. Yeah, they're working because they, we need the money, we need to survive and what have you. But most of their ambitions were born out of, trying to extract meaning from a meaningless world and trying to cope. So anyway, that's my thesis about the coping strategy. But there are two types, aren't there? There's that one that says, you can have it all. Those motivational type strategies, how to get rich, you can be rich, cosmic ordering. You remember cosmic ordering? Where basically you sit in a chair and you kind of wish the universe to provide for you what you want. I mean, normally it's a kind of red Ferrari or something like that. It's ridiculous. Of course, it's kind of Nutsville, but most of the world is nutty. But that is particularly nutty, isn't it? Cosmic ordering. And then we've got also Christianity, how our religion in the West generally has turned into the prosperity gospel, the prosperity Christianity, a Christianity where you turn up and you pray, but you basically pray for what's the word they use? I can't remember what the word they use, but basically you pray for money. They have another word for it. I'll see if I can remember it before the end of this chat. It's abundance. You pray for abundance. Now, the reason that they use that little word abundance is because they don't like to use the word money. It's not nice. So you turn up for church, right? You've arrived there. You've probably taken a bus there because mainly it's the poor people or the struggling people. It's the people in pain who often go in church to pray, don't they? So you arrive at church and the first thing the guy says to you or the girl says to you, in your Houston mega chapel with 100,000 people in there, is they normally they might mention Jesus Christ once or twice, but generally it's all about why you should give. And the fact that if you give, you'll get back threefold. And, pray, if you give, you will receive the Lord's abundance, prosperity. Anyway, let me not go on about those. So it's all about what I don't know why they're saying that get rich. I mean, I guess they're saying, if you get rich because it will solve all your problems. All your problems will disappear with prosperity. All your problems will disappear with abundance. All your problems will disappear with power. And then there's the other kind, isn't there, which is just sort of like the sort of Hannah Fry style, which is just try and get through the day. Keep going. Don't give up. Every journey begins with a single step. Don't give up before you've even started. I know you're deflating like a balloon and you can barely go on. I think we need to ask ourselves why this is the case. I mean, there's clearly, as I said, something wrong. Happiness is it's something we've invented quite recently. I mean, there was no such thing as happiness 300 years ago. It didn't exist, okay? I mean, it started this whole the concept of how we should be in the world and what is the best state for us to be in the world 2,000 years ago was nothing to do with happiness. It was to do with being noble. It was to do with having virtue. This was the Greek idea, wasn't it? The Greek idea wasn't that you would go into the world being like happy, like smiling from ear to ear, seeking out your own happiness. It was nothing to do with that. It was to do with duty, loyalty, sacrifice, nobility, virtue. That's what you went into the world to try and obtain for yourself. Nothing to do with bloody how to be happy. And then, that then became, during and after the Enlightenment, we were then interested in kind of what our rights were. What rights do I have that I can project into the world? You know, have I got the right to be free? Do I have, you know, the right to a kind of justice, a kind of fairness in the world? Not do I have the right to happiness, but do I have the right to have a fair trial? Do I have the right to being able to self-determine? Those kind of things. I think there's no happiness involved in it at all. People would have just been completely confused, you know. And now it's just all about happiness. How can I be happy? What should I do to be happy? You've got to be happy. Find a job that makes you happy. It's just an invention. And it's a tragic invention as well, because now people are chasing around trying to find it. And it doesn't have any, there's no substance to it. It's steam. Yeah. So after the Enlightenment, we had the Industrial Revolution, and then I think during the things started to change, didn't they? Because then there was a little bit more money around, wasn't there? There was these things called, there was the beginning of the sort of the stable job in a way, industrialization, as we industrialized. And then I think it was around then people started to want, they didn't want happiness, they wanted basic comfort. Because this was the beginning of comfort, you know. There was the possibility that you might get a toilet in the house. That was comforting. I mean, goodness knows if you got hot water, I mean, that would be a bloody miracle. I mean, that didn't happen for a while, but it did come eventually. Comfort. Little things for the house that were comforting. You know, beautiful continental duvets, windows that shut properly, things like that. It became about comfort. You'd go in the world trying to be happy, but certainly if you could afford a little bit of comfort, that would be the right thing. And then it all became obsessive. We were all obsessed with ourselves, weren't we? The rise of I don't know whether you remember the rise of the self-help book. It started in about 1970, and it was just, everything became focused on self-improvement. People thought back then that if you kind of read every self-help book that was on the shelf, that you would so transform yourself that you might even, you know, find yourself in a kind of transcendental, sort of heavenly state, that you might beat the system, that you would corrupt and destroy all of those things that were eating you up inside. You come out clear. That's what Scientology is all about, isn't it? It's about ridding yourself of these negative anomalies and aberrations that exist within us until we become clear. The only thing is that that's very expensive to do that. Of course, it doesn't work, of course. But where you can buy a self-help book from Oxfam for a couple of euros, and you can think, you know, and have you noticed how they don't say very much? You start a self-book and you get very excited in the first chapter, and by about the fourth chapter, you think, oh, you know, where's all this going? It sounded great from the title and the subtitle in the first chapter. The promises were marvellous. I don't know, none of this worked. Then we had the digital revolution, and although the digital world is full of people telling you how to be happy, and full of personal affirmation, and full of podcasts saying, you know, based on, you know, how did somebody achieve X? Let's find out. How can you achieve X too? It's not really about happiness, is it now? What is it about? It's about optimizing yourself. Optimization. You know, I mean, you don't really need to optimize yourself because you're being replaced by artificial intelligence anyway. So AI is already optimized. That's almost kind of its fundamental core is always optimizing in a kind of feedback loop. I'm not saying that happiness isn't a human emotion, and you do get glimpses of it from time to time. It's here and there, and it can come when you least expect it, in a way. But it's a sort of very transitory thing. It's not something that you need to kind of work extremely hard to try and achieve at a, you know, so you're chronically happy. It's a bit like those big t-shirts that say choose life. Somehow that, you know, you have a simple decision to make. You know, what's your attitude going to be today? I am going to be this, or I am going to be that. It's all kind of self-delusion, isn't it? I understand it. But I think it's much better to see life as it really is, and then take it from there and see what happens. In fact, if there is shall I say this? Okay. I mean, if there is a path to happiness, I think it's in accepting the tragedy first. And then you might get so dark that you almost become reconciled with it to some extent, and it lightens you a little bit. But anyway, that's not for now.